Hello, profilers and everybody out there. My name is Dan Skip Allen, and you have seen me before because I am the host of the Profiles After Show. We are doing a special Profiles After Show this evening. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the summer movies that are out, most notably Mad Max Fury Road, Jurassic World, Inside Out. We're going to also give you our top 5 films of 2015 so far, even though there's about a week and a half left of 2015 halfway point. This is the point when we chose to do this, so this is when we're going to do it. We may sneak in our worst film of the year. And I'll tell you right now, I have not said my worst film. I do not know my worst film yet. So when I say my worst film, it's then and then will have only chosen my worst film of 2015. So stay tuned for that. And my guests this evening are 2 previous guests I have had on the Profiles After Show. I can't remember which shows they were on, so I will not go into that. But I'm going to introduce my 2 guests. No, actually, you know what? I'm going to have my 2 guests introduce themselves. Mark, go ahead. You go first.
Yeah, hi. I was on 2 shows. I know I did Wes Anderson. I kind of forget what else I've done, but I've been on the Profiler show a couple times, and I recently did a big move, so I haven't been seen on the Profilers After Show for a few months, but I'm very glad that I'm back. So thank you, Dan.
Michael?
Yeah, my name is Michael Kamel. I'm from California. I was on the Jack Nicholson show, and yeah, I'm happy to be here for a second time, talk summer movies.
And I am happy to have you. We are also waiting on Rachel Cushing. She had a little bit of a snag at work, but she'll be on hopefully in a little while. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about some summer movies, and we're going to bring up the first movie I want to talk about is Mad Max Fury Road. What are your thoughts, positive? We're going to go through positive thoughts and then negative thoughts. We're not going to go too in-depth with these because we don't want to talk all night about this. So, Mark, what are your thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road?
Well, I really love the movie. I haven't really seen a lot of the original films. I have seen them, it was, though, a long time ago. I do remember, for some reason, Thunderdome a little bit more than the other 2. But I saw this movie, a couple months ago when it came out, opening weekend, theater was packed, and I was unprepared for just how intense the action was in the film. The acting was really, really great, but it was mostly those chase scenes that just sort of left me kind of mesmerized. And from the opening frame to the closing shot, it was just action after action after action. I just loved the movie. And I did think that Nicholas Hoult gave one of the most underrated, kind of surprising performances. Charlize Theron was obviously amazing. Tom Hardy was amazing. But Nicholas Hoult was absolutely incredible. So overall, I completely just loved the movie.
All right, Michael, what were your thoughts? Have you seen Mad Max Fury Road? What were your thoughts on it?
Yes, I have. I actually saw it twice. I really, really, really dug Mad Max Fury Road. It was an awesomely testosterone-filled movie with some of the best, most ridiculous, crazy action I've seen in my life. It also had a great story and some surprisingly really good characters. And Furiosa was she was the lead of the movie, and Charlize Theron gave one of the best performances I've seen in a blockbuster. I don't know, in a while. In a big summer blockbuster, she gave a performance that was very Oscar worthy, and like Mark said, Nicholas Hoult gave a really underrated performance. People are forgetting about him, and he was really good, and he was really, really good in it. As Nux, and yeah, everything was really good. Tom Hardy was great as Mad Max. Immortan Joe, I for the guy that played Toe Cutter in the first film was really good, and yeah, I just love what George Miller did. You could tell he was really passionate, and this is coming from a 70-year-old filmmaker, and you can't believe those stunts. You think like someone a lot younger made this movie, but no, it was from a 70-year-old filmmaker, and it was his return to action, and that was a return because he did like a lot of kids movies. Like, I mean, I do love the Babe movies, but Happy Feet and Happy Feet 2 I haven't seen, but I mean, it's a great return to action for him.
Yeah, I saw this movie once, and maybe I need to see it again. It was just such an interesting concept to just go from point A to point B, and it just reminded me of like a buddy road picture kind of thing,
Oh, yeah.
except to 1 billionth degree, where you have all this just ridiculous action going on. And I mean, I know he had to go back to the studio and ask for a bunch of money. I guess the movie, including posters and trailers and all that sort of stuff, cost $180 million or something like that. I think he got every ounce of his $180 million for this movie because, I mean, you can't see. I mean, there's literally nothing that you could point to in Mad Max Fury Road except for maybe the plot. Maybe there's not more of a story because it's pretty cut and dry what the movie is. They want to go from point A to point B, and Furiosa, Charlize Theron wants to save these women so they're not, abused by this guy. And that guy, wow, he was in the original Mad Max, and then he comes back, and I'm thinking the whole movie, who the hell is that guy? Who's playing that guy? And I didn't find out till after the movie, like a week or two after the movie, that guy was the original guy from Mad Max. And it was like, holy crap, it's 30 years ago that guy was in that movie, So it was like 30-something years ago. So that was kind of crazy. But, yeah, you guys both hit on Nicholas Hoult. I love Nicholas. I love him as Beast. I know a lot of people don't like him in Jack the Giant Slayer, but Nicholas Hoult is one of those young actors that is really starting to come into the forefront of one. What was the zombie? Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies.
Fantastic in Warm Bodies. I loved him. He's just a zombie, kind of a romantic zombie love story. But I'm a big fan of, and I can't wait to see more things with Nicholas Hoult. But Tom Hardy, I mean, knowing he is the title character of the movie, Mad Max, yet he steps back and lets Charlize Theron basically be the lead in this movie. She probably got paid more money than he did, so maybe that makes sense that she was the lead in Mad Max Fury. And then I heard they were going to change the original title of the movie was Furiosa or something like that, and they changed it to Mad Max Fury Road. Because they probably thought that people would go for it more. I think if you did it Furiosa, I don't know if it would have did as well because people wouldn't know what it is. But by putting Mad Max Fury Road in the title, I think everybody kind of knew what they're getting in for. But I mean, there's supposedly going to be sequels. I don't know how much longer George Miller can live. I mean, the guy is, like you said, 70 years old. I mean, he must have all kinds of energy. I mean, I don't know what kind of drugs he's taking to be able to do these things, but I can't wait for more. I'm a huge Tom Hardy fan, and if you haven't seen Locke, wow,
yes.
Fantastic movie of a guy driving a car.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think the Matthew McConaughey Lincoln commercials are great, you should watch Locke. That movie is fantastic. But I am a huge fan of Tom Hardy. I cannot wait to see him as Elton John. I mean, how the heck is he going to be Elton John? I mean, if you kind of look at him, he's got a British accent. He's kind of a short guy. But to see him singing music, playing the piano, it's going to be interesting to see Tom Hardy in that. And also, I know he's in the Revenant later on this year with Leonardo DiCaprio. So we'll see him acting with another powerhouse from Hollywood, Leo DiCaprio. So, what would you guys give Mad Max if you had to score it? I don't know, out of 5 or 10 or whatever your scoring system is that you personally use.
I would give it an A. I think it is one of the best movies of the year and one of the best action movies you've got in a while. And I just really, really enjoyed it. It got even better the second time. And yeah, I really, really just, I loved it.
Mark?
Yeah. For myself, I normally go out of 10. I give it like a 9.5. The half point off just being, as you mentioned before, they might have been able to sort of flesh out more of a story, more of a plot, but in no way did that take away from the film. The film itself is just so incredible that whatever little lack of plot it had, or maybe lack of story that it had, the story itself in the movie still had all the same beats and everything kind of went along with that simple story. So they didn't deteriorate or whatever from there, or deviate rather. But yeah, so for me around a 9.5. And it was incredible. I also, like Michael, I did also see it twice in theaters, and for me to see a movie twice in theaters, it's got to be quite special and quite different for me to do that. So, yeah.
I have another show that I do called the Best Damn Movie Show with my co-host Vinny. Not to plug another show, but and I usually go see it or a big see it. Those are my 3 ratings, and I'm going to give Mad Max Fury Road a big see it. I did it on the Best Damn Movie Show, and I'm doing it again. I absolutely love this movie. All right, now we're going to talk about Jurassic World, and this time we're going to let Michael go first. Michael, what are your thoughts, positively or negatively, with Jurassic World?
I thought it was all right. It was entertaining. I liked the creature aspect of it. I liked the Indominus Rex. Chris Pratt was a good lead. It wasn't as good as the first Jurassic Park, but I haven't seen the sequels, so I can't really say. But yeah, it was like all right. I like that they actually opened the park. There's some fun humor to it. There's a lot of good stuff to be had in the movie, and it is enjoyable, like I said. But however, there's also a lot of bad stuff in the movie. I didn't like all the I didn't like any of the characters that weren't Chris Pratt, except maybe Ty Simpkins. And Bryce Dallas Howard was okay, but like most of the actors just weren't really. Most of the actors, and there are some good actors in this movie, they weren't giving it their all. Like Bryce Dallas Howard, she was fine. Vinci, I mean, everyone was fine because they are good actors, but like they kind of felt underused or anything, and I just didn't like any of the characters that weren't Chris Pratt, except maybe Ty Simpkins' character. I know I said that. Sorry if I keep on repeating myself, but yeah. But overall, I still think it's fun. It's just really flawed. There's some like really stupid stuff that happened. I'm like, did that really need to happen? And it just wasn't well executed at times, but still an entertaining film.
Mark?
I thought Jurassic World was a good movie. Not a great movie, not an okay movie, just for me, good. What was good about it is the nostalgia of the original film, which I remember seeing. I was about maybe 10 years old when it first came out, Jurassic Park, meaning. And after Jurassic Park, every single kid that saw that movie, loved dinosaurs. We've all bought dinosaur books. We all played with dinosaur toys. Like the dinosaur craze went crazy from in the early 90s, and it was all because of Jurassic Park. So then the sequel came out, and I guess I was a teenager, and then number 3 came out, which I've never seen. And I remember The Lost World just really frustrating me, and it really disappointed me. So going into Jurassic World, I didn't want to be disappointed. I wasn't disappointed, but I also wasn't blown away. What I loved about the movie, and I think is the strongest part of that film, is the park itself. The fact that Jurassic World it reopened, I guess, sometime before the events of the movie, and the technology was incredible, and the holograms were cool, and the gyrosphere. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen a movie or like a TV show or something, and you kind of get angry because like that theme park doesn't exist. Like, I want to go to Jurassic World, minus of course maybe getting eaten by a dinosaur. But up until that point, like, I would have loved a year before Jurassic World happened to have gone there, been there, done the kayaking down the river with brontosauruses. Like, I was so into that aspect. But as Michael said, there are underused characters. The most criminally underused was Vincent D'Onofrio, who is an excellent actor, and he was cookie cutter. And Jake Johnson was good. He was the comic relief, but he was a little bit on the cookie cutter side. Also very underused. So there are elements in that film that just, like, it was whimsical. It just took me away, brought back nostalgia. But overall, it wasn't great. It was good. So, that's what I would say about the film. I would say if you're a Jurassic Park fan, go see it for the park. But everything else around the park, excluding Chris Pratt, who's just fantastic. Star-Lord is amazing. And, Bryce Dallas Howard, fine, whatever. But other than that, there's not much else to go on. It's basically, for me, the park and Chris Pratt. Those were the two biggest things for me personally that I loved about the movie.
All right, well, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Mark said and a little bit about Michael said. I'm going to both of their what they said together, and I'm going to tell you what my thoughts are on Jurassic World. I'll be honest, I'm going to start off right now, and I say, if you haven't found out that Chris Pratt is a power player in Hollywood and in future film, you're a freaking idiot. This guy has proven with Lego, with Guardians of the Galaxy, now Jurassic World, that he is an A-list star, and if you don't cast him in your movie, you're dumber than a box of rocks. Because it doesn't matter what it is. The guy can do it. He can do it. I mean, a movie that I think he was phenomenal in, and that was Moneyball. I mean, a drama about sports, and he was fantastic. He was basically a nobody at that time. His character of Owen was fantastic. The whole stuff with the velociraptors and stuff like that. I'm going to go back to Bryce Dallas Howard. I like Bryce Dallas Howard. I'm not saying I don't like her. But if you've seen her in a few different things she's been in, Lady in the Water, she's wooden. I mean, her dad, she did not get the acting chops from her father. I don't know what the heck happened here, but I'd rather see Jessica Chastain. I mean, she's basically the man's version of Jessica Chastain. That's who we should have had in that role. Maybe Jessica Chastain was busy. I don't know. Ty Simpkins. Now, I liked him in Iron Man 3. He's a good kid. I liked him in this. I mean, I've heard a lot of criticism about the kids in this film. I'll be honest with you. I like the kids. I thought the kids, when they went to the kids, I cared about what happened to the kids. I wanted to know what the kids were doing. Why were we going back to other characters? I look at, and now Vincent D'Onofrio. I actually like Vincent D'Onofrio. I think he's a great actor. Full Metal Jacket, phenomenal. Daredevil, the TV show on Netflix. If you haven't seen Daredevil, people, go find a way to see Daredevil. Probably the best part of Daredevil, except the show as a whole, is Vincent D'Onofrio as the Kingpin. He is fantastic in that TV show. I love the action. I love the special effects. I'm going to tell you this straight up. That movie could have really fallen flat on its face, but the ending was phenomenal. The chase, the action. We have, and spoilers, if you haven't seen it, it's 2 weeks old, folks. If you're not like the people that made the $1 billion that Jurassic World has made, all right, sorry. You're not the audience that watches the show anyway. So I'm going to say, the ending with the Velociraptors and the T-Rex and Indominus Rex, and the one scene that is in the trailer, which is kind of like, you put that in the trailer, but you're kind of waiting for the scene to happen. It was perfect when the giant monster from the water park area, the water thing, jumped up and grabbed the the, the thing. I was like, yeah, and but it was just like a giant monster. But it was like Godzilla fighting King Kong, fighting Ghidorah, a bunch of monsters fighting each other. That's what the ending of this movie was. And to me, it was worth the entire weight of the movie. It made that movie 100 times better than it was. But I'm glad they put that ending and they made it like an uphill thing where it just kept going uphill. The ante kept going up and up and up and up and up. That's why I love Jurassic World. I'm gonna give my review right now. My score. Big C for Jurassic World for me. I'm a fan of the original, just like Mark. I love how they put the music from the original into this. You even get a little bit of the old Jurassic World Park in there, a little bit with the Jeep and stuff like that. But wow, I thought it was fantastic. I'm giving it a big C. So, Michael, what's your rating?
My rating, I am going to give it a B minus. I think it is an enjoyable blockbuster film. If you are a big Jurassic Park fan or a big fan of like big action, big spectacle movies, I think I think it's worth seeing in theaters. If you're just kind of not really into Jurassic World or into like big blockbusters, I would say it's a rental. So yeah, I liked it. I just wish it was a little bit better, especially. Yeah, I just wish it was a little bit better, but overall I liked it. And Chris Pratt and is like you said, Dan. He could definitely lead a movie.
Mark?
7.5 out of 10 for me. Again, enjoyable, good movie. Liked it. Definitely loved parts of it. Just overall as a film, even the ending, I guess. The ending was good, but the beats up to the ending and some of the things that happened in the ending was fairly similar. It was really similar to the first one, and I just maybe wish that they had done something a little bit different because it still involves the T-Rex, it still involves the Velociraptors. They team up to get the Indominus Rex. It just seemed a little bit like, oh, okay, we're gonna go do this again. I just kind of wish it was a little different because I don't know. I guess maybe I was expecting something a little different, but I didn't hate it. It just wasn't. I don't know. It just wasn't. It just didn't make me feel like amazed because I'd seen it before. That's all. But 7.5 out of 10 for me. Again, good movie. Especially see it if you've loved the original movies, particularly the first one.
All right, now I'm going to wait. We should be getting Rachel any minute now, so I'm going to ask you guys, what, besides the movies that are going to be on your top 5 of the year so far, what other movie, keep it, we don't want to go too in depth with this, but what other movie did you love a lot that you want to share, that tell people how much you love, and we'll give that a review or whatever. We'll give that rating as well. We'll go with Mark this time.
Well, so I have my top 5 movies, and I was a little struggling to get 5, but the one that I would have put at 6 was Run All Night with Liam Neeson. I actually thought that was a pretty good movie. Not like my favorite of the year or anything, but it was something that, again, had I put a top 6, it would have been number 6, would have been something like that. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good movie. I thought the concept was really good. I thought the acting was really good. I really liked the way it went. But even just by saying that and sort of talking about it, it was a real struggle for me to find, and I've seen a movie almost every weekend, to find something to put together. So I don't know what that says about either the movies I haven't been seeing or the first half of our 2015 not being the greatest year of film. but I always really like thrillers, and I always really like action thrillers and crime thrillers, and I thought Run All Night was good. It was good for what it was. I think, yeah, and I think Vincent D'Onofrio was also in that movie too, if I'm not mistaken. Um,
Yeah.
but that's really the only one that I can mention for me.
Michael?
I have quite a few I really liked. They weren't like great movies, but I really liked them.
All right,
Uh,
try to narrow it down to one or two.
all right. Yeah.
That's
So
not on your top 5 of the year so far.
I. Oh, you know what? I'll just go with. I put a few two honorable mentions. I'll just go with them. Um. First of all, I will go with Danny Collins. I really really love that movie. It was return to form for Al Pacino. I thought it was one of his best performances in a while. It was just such a feel-good movie. It made me tear up a little, I have to admit. Bobby Cannavale is one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood right now. He's just so good, and yeah, I just loved Al Pacino's character and just like the story with him, and just you really cared for his character, and that you see the power of Al Pacino in that movie.
All right.
He is just brilliant in that movie, and also the other one is It Follows. Now I'm not like a diehard horror fan. I'll appreciate a good horror film, when it comes when one comes out. Like Cabin in the Woods is a good one that came out in the last couple of years. Babadook. But yeah, It Follows. I just love kind of the world that the director. I forgot his name, but that he kind of did, and I like the story with those kids and Mika Monroe. I think she'll definitely be a staple in a lot of horror movies. I just think she was great in The Guest. And yeah, I just love her so far. She's one of the best young up and coming actors, and and that film actually terrified me. I saw it late at night, and I was like, wow, I was legitimately terrified. And I don't usually get terrified, but I was pretty scared in a couple parts.
Wow, that's I'll tell you what, guys. If I had to do 15, I definitely know Mark's Run All Night would be probably about number 11 on my top 15 of the year. Wow, was that a good movie or what? I cannot say enough. That was a fantastic movie. I didn't expect it either. You know, Joel Kinnaman, you just do not expect that movie. It seemed like a run-of-the-mill Liam Neeson movie. But it was probably the best he's done of all of these kind of cookie-cutter Liam Neeson movies that he's done the last 2 or 3 years. Probably the best one. Danny Collins wow, probably the best performance by any actor all year, in my opinion. Michael, Al Pacino is right now top number 1. They gave the Oscar away right now for best performance of the year. Al Pacino should win, in my opinion. He gives the performance of the year in Danny Collins. What a phenomenal movie. Hey, baby, what's going on? I will do a Christian Harloff there. And I am going to be cliche here because my top 5 are basically my 5 favorite movies of the year, and they're pretty much indie. So I'm going to go cliche, and I'm going to say I'm going to do 2 movies, Fast 7 and Avengers Age of Ultron. I know that's cliche that I'm talking about 2 big billion-dollar blockbusters. But I mean, I believe they both lived up to the expectations. You have all the crazy stuff that happened with Paul Walker's death and stuff. How could Fast 7 live up to Fast 6, Fast 5? And it does. I think it holds its own with those 2 films, and it just gives you enough to where you can't wait for Fast 8 and Fast 9. And I think Vin Diesel, he has had a resurgence in his career. This guy, after like Fast 1 and some of the Triple X or whatever, some of those earlier, the Boiler Room, he's really gone down to the toilet with like Fast 3 and whatever, some of these other movies. and he's done so many crappy movies. But he's really had a resurgence in his career. He got back to what made him who he is. And I'm looking forward to the last Witch Hunter. I know it doesn't sound like it's going to be that good, but that trailer looks really interesting. So I'm looking forward to the last Witch Hunter. The Rock, once again, I mean, wow. Some of the one-liners that the Rock gives in Fast 7 are just, like, ridiculous. The villains, and the villain, Jason Statham, probably gives two great performances this year that are two separately different performances. One in Spy, which he is phenomenal. You have not seen Jason Statham in Spy. He steals the freaking movie in a completely different way than you would expect. And then as the villain, wow, he's just an amazing, badass villain in Fast 7. My other one is Avengers: Age of Ultron. Wow. I mean, there's 11. Ant-Man will make 11 Marvel movies. I think Avengers: Age of Ultron is better than Avengers. I know that's sacrilege. God, how dare you say Avengers: Age of Ultron is better than Avengers? I think it is. I love the character development with Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Ultron, the Vision, Hawkeye, Jeremy Renner. Thank you, Joss Whedon, for giving us the Hawkeye we should have got in Avengers. Of course, he's like mind-controlled half the time in Avengers. If you haven't read the Hawkeye's series, the comic book series, and I'm not going to get into comics but that series reminds me a lot of what they were trying to do in Avengers: Age of Ultron with Hawkeye. Jeremy Renner was fantastic in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Of course, Paul Bettany, you hear him as the voice of Jarvis the computer. Thank God they decided to use Paul Bettany as the Vision. What a great idea by Joss Whedon, the guy that runs Marvel.
Kevin Feige.
Kevin Feige. What a great plan you guys had by using him as the Vision. Boy, the wait was worth. It was worth the wait to see the Vision and what the things that he did. And I liked the arcs by Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. You know, in the cameos by Falcon and War Machine and stuff like that. And I thought it left off at a perfect place for Marvel Civil War. I'm hoping there's some announcements regarding the Hulk here pretty soon. You know, maybe Mark Ruffalo gave us some hints of what could happen with the Hulk, because maybe Universal technically still has the rights to the Hulk. Maybe that's why they did not make announcements with the Marvel slate of films. We may see a Hulk movie, I'm hoping. Don't take this as gospel. I'm just speculating, people. Oh, Dan Skip Allen said there's going to be other Hulk movies. No, I am not saying that. I'm hoping that we see stuff with Mark Ruffalo. Of course, it's going to be mocap. We may see Claw in a Black Panther movie. I'm looking forward to seeing Claw in the Black Panther movie, hopefully. I really, really, really enjoyed Avengers: Age of Ultron. And like I said, I know it's cliche. I'm picking Fast 7 and Avengers: Age of Ultron. We already talked about Mad Max and Jurassic World. Maybe $4 billion movies that have come out within 2 months of each other. We could end up with 5 or 6, guys, by the end of the year. This could be the biggest money-making year in the history of Hollywood, because you could end up with 6 billion-dollar movies. Inside Out is going to make $1 billion. Mark it down. It's going to have staying power. And, of course, Star Wars, we all know that's going to make $1 billion probably in the first week. No. Probably maybe a couple, 2 or 3 weeks it'll make $1 billion. But, all right. So we have not gotten Rachel yet. But I think... Go ahead, Michael.
I just wanted to say, yeah, I really enjoyed Avengers as well. I thought it was Avengers 2. I thought it was really fun. I've actually forgot to mention that. I would have liked to. So, yeah, that would have definitely been one of my honorable mentions. That movie was just a lot of fun.
On my picks for special big movies or honorable mentions, Mark.
That'll be that'll be for me for later. So I don't want to mention anything at the moment. Yeah.
Very interesting. We got a little sneak peek at what
Yeah.
Mark might have. Okay. All
Yeah.
right. We're going to get into Inside Out, and hopefully Rachel pops on here and gets on here and talks about Inside Out. But I'm going to go with Michael. Michael, what is your thoughts on this latest outing from Pixar?
Pixar is back, and I can finally say that with full stuff. I really dug Monsters University. I thought it was really fun, but like this is Pixar at its peak. This is great Pixar. It's one of their best movies I think ever, and I really loved it. It was so inventive, so funny, and heartfelt too at the same time. This is the old Pixar formula that works for kids and adults, and just the premise of it was so good, and like the story, and like it was just so creative of how like these emotions can work in a girl's brain, and you definitely have those feelings. Like this is one of the most relatable films they probably ever had. I think most people could relate to it. I definitely did to a lot of stuff, and yeah, I really loved it, and it had a lot of risks. It had a great story. It had great and funny characters. Amy Poehler was great as Joy. Phyllis Smith as Sadness. I thought she was really. I thought there was a lot of really good emotion with it, and with Sadness, and yeah, I really dug yeah, I just really loved it. It's one of the best animations in a while.
Well, looky who we got. We got Miss Rachel Cushing. Welcome to this special episode of Profiles After Show. We have been waiting for you, and we're gonna, since we're in the middle, we just started talking about Inside Out. We're gonna let you have the floor, Rachel, and you say what your thoughts, positively or negatively, on Inside Out.
Okay. Sorry for being late, guys. Got stuck at work, but thanks for letting me join. Well, Inside Out is, for those of you that have read my reviews or seen my Facebook page, is my absolute favorite movie of the year, bar none. And there's been some good movies so far this year, but I'm almost positive that Inside Out is in my top 3 Pixar movies ever made. Could very well reach number 1 after some time, but I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. It's what Pixar does best at its best. It's for adults, it's for kids, it's smart, it's funny, it's sentimental. It creates a dialogue for kids to talk about emotions after they see the movie. There are tons of winks and nods to anybody that's ever taken Psychology 101 in college. There's so many visual winks and so many beautifully rendered ideas. The Imagination Land, Dream Production Studios, the Subconscious, and these 5 characters are just these little blobs, but they are just as heartfelt as any character Pixar's ever come up with. Joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear are some of the best characters they've ever done, and it's just brilliant in every possible way. So I won't continue to go on because I could, but 5 out of 5, A+, top marks, my favorite movie of the year. Well done, Pixar. Welcome back.
All right, Mark. Hope you can top that.
No, I'll try. Yeah, I loved Inside Out. I'm not a huge Pixar fan, and I'm not a big animation fan, or at least in my adult years, I've become a little bit more cynical to life and everything and how it works. But when I go to a movie and I see something so innovative, so creative, so different, so many risks that have been taken. Just the scene, and you'll have to forgive me, I should know this, but the scene with Riley's imaginary friend, who was it, Bilbo
Bing
or
Bong.
Bobo, or what was?
Bing bong.
Bing Bong.
Bing Bong, that's it, okay. Bing Bong, okay, so Bing Bong, like, the scene when he, and I'm going to make a spoiler here, the scene when he kind of fades away is like Oh my God, like that, it was crazy. It was nuts. So when someone like me goes in to sit, and I was in the theater surrounded by parents and children. I was probably, because I was with a friend of mine, we were probably the only like two like guys that were sitting in this theater, just surrounded by families, surrounded by kids and whatever. And to watch a movie that is just so unique, so different, so amazing. I don't know, like how else can you describe it? It's an amazingly brilliant film, and all the nods, as Rachel had said, to all different parts of the brain and what they do, and imagination and things like that, and just the story about this girl who's 11 years old who's maturing, and so she has to say goodbye to her imaginary friends and some of her childhood memories, and some of them turn to sadness. It's just like the way that they show it and the way that it's seen in the film, the way that it interacts in the film was seriously the most brilliant thing I've seen in a long, long time. So, like Rachel, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. It's a great movie. I would say it's probably my favorite Pixar movie. I did like Up a lot, but I've seen Up since, and some of it holds up, some of it doesn't. I did love Toy Story 3. Again, some of it held up, some of it didn't. So for me, at this moment, it's certainly my favorite Pixar movie. If you have not seen Inside Out, you have to see Inside Out. Doesn't matter what age you are. It doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter what race you are, what religion you are. Like, who cares? You have to see Inside Out. It is absolutely amazing. It's just the best.
Yeah, wow. To listen to all three of you guys, this is fantastic. I actually talked about Inside Out on the Profiles After Show Pixar special last week, and I had it at my number 5 on my favorite Pixar films of all time. And I have seen it a second time since then. And I'll tell you what, just listening to what you guys say is just so it still opens my eyes even more than listening to you guys, because I had a lot of those thoughts, but I also have new thoughts thinking about the movie, and I had talked to Scott Mantz. We all know the main man behind Profiles with Alicia Malone and Scott Mantz. He brought up a really good point about Inside Out. If you look at it from the parents' point of view, the parents don't know what's going on inside this little girl's mind. And as a kid who moved around a lot and who didn't have a lot of friends and went through a lot of different schools, and how my emotions were when I was growing up as a kid and a teenager, knowing that I was losing my friends and leaving the place that I cared about, and that kept on happening a lot. I know the emotions and the things that happened to me, and so I felt like I was that little girl in a lot of ways. It's like, why does this have to happen? Why do we have to go through all this? To see what goes on. Well, Pixar's magic shows us what goes on inside of a little 11, 12-year-old girl's mind, and that was almost a tear in my eye for when Bing Bong. But it was the right thing to do at the right time. She needed to lose that imaginary friend in her world, in her life, and it was just wow. Amy Poehler, if they could give an Oscar for voicing an actor or a character, she deserves an Oscar nom. She was, Rachel said these actors may have been the best voiced characters in Pixar history. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say Amy Poehler is one of the best voiced characters ever in animation history. How Amy Poehler can put that much just depth into a character, an animated character, is phenomenal. Mindy Kaling, Phyllis Smith, Bill Hader, Lewis Black. Lewis Black was fantastic. Every time he said something, I laughed. If you didn't laugh every time Lewis Black said something, you're not human. He was hilarious in this. But Amy Poehler was the heart and soul of this movie. I think without her voicing Joy, nothing else goes to the point of greatness, and that's what this movie definitely is. It's a great, great movie. I had it at 5 because I had 4 other Pixar movies. I might knock it up to 4 and put up at number 5. You know what I mean? I might live right now. I might just do that. I might change my Fast 5 from last week and put up at 5, put Inside Out at 4, because after seeing it a second time, I loved it that much more. So, all right, we're gonna let Rachel have the floor once again. Rachel, we talked about Jurassic World, Mad Max, and then a couple other honorable mentions of movies that we really liked this year that were not on our Fast 5 favorite movies of 2015. So if you just quickly, if you'd like to say something about a few other movies that came out this summer, the floor is yours.
So don't talk about my other 4 top movies and just like mention a couple honorable mentions?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Mad Max makes my top 5, so I won't speak about that. Jurassic World was good. It was enjoyable. It was exactly what I want a popcorn movie to be. It won't make my top 10 of the year. I don't even know if it would make top 20 because I think that there's some issues with it. But it doesn't mean I didn't have a really fun time going opening weekend in a packed theater with my friend and just loving all the homages to the original and the fact that the movie captured that sort of glee and awe that we had when we saw the 1993 Jurassic Park, or at least I did as a 13-year-old at the time, and just to see dinosaurs on the big screen. So this movie sort of went back to that mold, and I thought that was great. And then it turned into this whole monster movie, which I also thought was great. There were some side plots with military and InGen and Vincent D'Onofrio playing a one-dimensional villain that I didn't love, but I could handle that because I got a lot of great dinosaur action. Chris Pratt is, the newest movie star in Hollywood right now. Proves that there still is such a thing as movie stars. And the rest of the acting was good. So, thoroughly enjoyable. And I certainly contributed to its $208 million or whatever it got that weekend. So, for honorable mentions, I'm sorry, I don't know if I'll repeat anything that you guys talked about. Probably not this one. I'm going to give a shout out to Cinderella because A, I love Kenneth Branagh, and I thought he did a gorgeous job on this movie. And B, because I did not expect to like it as much as I did. I mean, yes, I loved Cinderella as a little girl, still has fond memories of fairy tales, and I was intrigued by the idea of a live-action adaptation of the Disney cartoon movie, not the original Cinderella story per se. And I just got swept up in it, and I just attribute that to the 2 leads and the direction, because it was beautiful, and it was lyrical, and there was sweeping camera movements, and when she got the dress and she got to go to the ball, I just turned into that 10-year-old again. So I think that was just a very unexpectedly fun movie-going experience, and it did really well, and also makes me look forward to the Beauty and the Beast adaptation that's coming out next year. So I would call that one of my honorable mentions. So I'm good.
Yeah. I think if I would have done 15, I said this earlier, I would have put Run All Night. Mark talked about Run All Night. I think I would definitely have Cinderella in my top 15 of the year if I had done 15. Okay, folks, we are up to the part of the show where we get to start talking about our Fast 5 favorite films of 2015. And like I said, I've seen 78 movies this year, so I have a little bit of different aspect as far as how many movies I've seen. So I've probably seen more movies than most. Rachel's probably close to me as far as that goes. So little grain of salt here. Not everybody on the panel has seen as many movies as me. So if they don't mention your favorite movie out there watching, or if you watch this profile special later on, don't feel bad. It's just what's their favorite in their opinion and what they've seen in the first half of 2015. So we were going to go with Mr. Mark Tordai. Start with Fast 5, number 5. What is number 5 of the favorite movies?
I have at number 5. Sorry, I didn't mean to, Dan. At number 5, I have Kingsman: Secret Service. I loved Kingsman. I thought Kingsman was just fantastic. It was a surprise. I did not think it would be as good as it was. A lot of James Bond esque stuff in there. It's from a graphic novel. Samuel L. Jackson was awesome. He, like he normally is, but his lisp I loved. Like it was just a great movie. Taron Egerton, who was the lead, who played Eggsy, was great. Colin Firth was great. So I just really loved the action throughout. I really loved the mystique. I really loved the this sort of new take on the James Bond sort of, I guess, franchise, which was kind of like an old Bond in a way, sort of like almost a Connery Bond, as opposed to sort of the grittier Bond that we have now. But then, of course, it did, its own thing. So I have that as my number 5.
All right, Michael, what is your number 5 on your Fast Five favorite films of 2015?
My number 5 is, I don't know if everyone's seen this, Love and Mercy.
Okay.
I really, really loved Love and Mercy. I thought it was a fantastic biopic about a person and about a subject I don't really know about, but I don't know. I like period pieces about our previous century, and I just loved how the story went. I loved the performances. I loved you could really feel from Brian Wilson, even though he did go through some crazy stuff that aren't relatable. You could definitely feel for what he's gone through, especially thanks to Paul Dano and John Cusack. You wouldn't think they would pull off playing the same exact character, but they do, and especially thanks to Bill Pullman's direction, they do such a great job with it, and I just loved how powerful it was, and yeah, I also really loved the rest of the performances, like the rest of the people that played the Beach Boys. I don't know all their names, but I thought they were really good. Paul Giamatti, terrifying, playing Eugene Landy, terrifying, creepy, and just one of his best performances, I will say. And Elizabeth Banks, also one of her best performances, and she was really, really good. She really blew me away. I did say it was one of her best performances. It is her best performance, and I'm like, wow, she definitely needs to do more drama, because I just really loved her character, and yeah, I just really loved Love and Mercy.
Rachel, number 5 on your Fast Five films of 2015.
Sure. First, I just want to give a quick shout out because Mark reminded me Kingsman was amazing, and it deserves an honorable mention. I just missed my top 5, but that was just so much fun in the theater, and so early in the year, so sort of unexpected in that way. But loved Colin Firth, loved Taron Egerton, loved the action, loved the twist on the action and the spoof quality of it, but like the R-rated spoof quality, it was just a ton of fun and kind of inventive, given a year with lots of comic book movies and things like that. So my number 5 is Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. I just saw this recently. It was the Sundance Darling of the Year. Came away with both of the big prizes, and it definitely deserved them. It's a very kind of quirky coming-of-age story centered around a very sad plot, but the director he comes from the television world. He's directed a bunch of American Horror Stories and episodes of Glee. It's Alfonso Gomez-Rejon, I think, and he reminds me of like a young Wes Anderson. He's got a lot of really interesting camera angles and shot compositions, and it's just a really fun way to tell this story, and it's all told in voiceover by this kid in high school who's just made friends with a girl who is diagnosed with cancer, and it's his whole retelling of that friendship and what it meant to him and how it had impact on his life and how he had to grow up because of it and all of these things. So it's kind of this really hard story, but it's told in this whimsical way because the main character and his friend Earl are filmmakers, and they make these crazy spoof movies of actual films. And if you're a cinephile at all, you'll die laughing at like the titles of all their movies and everything. Like it's so clever and done in such an interesting way on a a young adult coming of age story, which there are hundreds of those movies. So it was nice to see a fresh take on that. Great acting all around, and just a very original little film that I think did deserve the Sundance prizes, and I hope a lot of people will get a chance to see.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Michael, Mark as well. I forgot all about Kingsman. That would definitely, if I had a top 15, that would definitely make my top 15. I might have to bounce something to number 11 or something. But Kingsman is definitely, I saw that back in January, and I'm like, wow, the people are going to love this when they see it, because it didn't come out for another month after that. And yeah, Mark Hamill, Colin Firth, wow, phenomenal. My number 5 is a little indie called Ex Machina, starring Oscar Isaac, Domhnall Gleeson. Wow, Alicia Vikander. If you don't know who Alicia Vikander is, folks, you're gonna start finding out who this woman is in the next year, because she's like in 6 movies. I know she's in Man from U.N.C.L.E., and she's in obviously. You've got to see this movie if you've not seen Ex Machina. It is a phenomenal science fiction movie about a robot, but there's more to it about personality. It's about character and who can you trust and who can you not trust, and what people's motivations are behind what they're doing. And you could relate that to anything you do in your life, whether it be your work, your family, whatever, school, whatever. You can relate to whether you should trust people, or are people trustworthy, or any of that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what Ex Machina has, that underlying plot of trust and reliability and so forth. But Alicia Vikander gives a phenomenal performance as a robot. What's it, Eva? What was her name, Eva? I can't remember.
Eva.
Eva. Oh, wow. She is fantastic in that movie. So I had Ex Machina. I'm sure you guys might have it on yours, so I'm not going to go too much into it. Now we're going to start back with Rachel. Number 4 on your Fast 5 films of 2015.
My number 4 would be the aforementioned Mad Max Fury Road. If for no other reason than this one caught me completely off guard. I did not know really what to expect. I've seen the original Mad Max years and years ago. I don't really remember it that well. I think I've seen pieces of Road Warrior. Again, I'm not sure. So I had nothing really to go on going in other than what people were talking about. I was curious about this over-budget, overblown movie by this, 70-year-old guy, and came out going, I don't even know what I just saw, but I loved every second of it. Like, yeah, it's thin on story, and I understand the criticisms of it, but I got caught up in it, and that's saying something. That's one way to enjoy a movie, and it didn't bother me that some people's backstories weren't fleshed out. But from what I understand, that's sort of the point of Mad Max, is you don't ever actually get to know him very well. And it's made me curious about seeing the other movies. But, I mean, the star of this movie is Charlize Theron. She, kicks ass in the best way possible, right up there with Sarah Connor and Ripley and the best female action heroes. She was amazing. The visuals in this were like nothing I'd ever seen before, and the fact that a lot of it is practical. I mean, this has been said over and over in the last month since it came out, but it's astounding what this movie accomplished in terms of amazing action that never felt old, never felt gratuitous, never felt kind of like the way I feel when I see a Fast and Furious movie. At some point in the middle of the movie, I'm kind of, okay, I have this similar action, I've seen it, I'm a little over it, but that never happened in Fury Road for me. I thought the characters were really good. Nicholas Hoult was amazing in it. Like, he can totally dissolved into that character in such a great way. And just a hell of a ride, like one hell of a ride, and highly recommend, especially if you can still see it in the theater. It's a great big screen movie, and just so much fun and so interesting, and I bow down to George Miller for being able to do this at his age, and I really hope that they make more.
All right, Michael, what is number 4 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
My number 4 is actually, I'm not gonna go that into it because I already mentioned it earlier. It's Mad Max Fury Road, but I'm I'll just talk about this real quick. I saw this in IMAX 3D, and it was great. I wish it played in more theaters than IMAX 3D. I had to go all the way to LA to see it at the Chinese theater. I saw it I saw it with my friend from Finland, and it was a great experience. He loved it. So yeah, it's a great IMAX experience. I just wanted to talk about it's probably one of the best experiences I had watching a movie.
All right, Mark, what's number 4 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
Mad Max Fury Road, which we've talked about. So, yeah, it's universal, I guess, between the three of us. But since we discussed it before, the only thing I'll just sort of say is it's just if you haven't seen it, you have to see it. So that's all.
All right, so we're gonna jump to my number 4. My number 4 is a little indie. If you follow Scott Mantz, you may know how much he loves this movie, and I think right now the front runner for an Oscar. Obviously, we still have a long way to go. From the female perspective, is Blythe Danner. I'll see you in my dreams. Wow. I mean, look, I'm not a spring chicken, all right? I'm 41 years old, but I really got how people in their 60s, 70s thought and think and go through life and have dealt with death and how to find love and how to be involved with relationships and so forth. Blythe Danner is in every scene of this movie, and I felt like I was in the movie with Blythe Danner, going through these trials and tribulations and finding love and finding relationships and dealing with death and playing poker or whatever she did, playing cribbage or whatever she was doing with her friends. And those Rhea Perlman, oh God, the girl from Nebraska, the lady from Nebraska, oh, she was
June Squibb.
June Squibb, she's so funny. Rhea Perlman, I mean, the ladies, the card game, they were fantastic in the card game. And Sam Elliott, if you have not seen the last season of Justified, Sam Elliott is in Justified. He is fantastic. Thank You for Not Smoking, who plays the Marlboro Man. This guy is a really underrated actor. He's really come into his own as he's gotten older. I know he's in his late 50s, early 60s, maybe even upper 60s. I don't know.
He's 70. I think he's 71 years old or 70.
71 years old, so the guy's an old guy, but he's a really interesting actor, and he played a nice character opposite Blythe Danner in this movie, Carol. Her name is Carol. His name was Bill. I don't care how old the people are. I don't care that these are senior citizens. See this movie, people. You will love this movie. And Blythe Danner, like I said, is one of the best performances of the year. The number one performance, in my opinion, from any actress all year. I know there's a long time left in the year, but and if you didn't know, she's the mother of Gwyneth Paltrow. So acting runs.
Really?
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she is.
All right, so number 3 on our Fast Five. Now we're going to start this time. We're going to start with Michael. What is number 3 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
I just wanted to mention I'll See You in My Dreams was a really good movie. I saw that one too. I thought it was a little slow, but like I said, Blythe Danner, in her first leading role, and she was great. And Sam Elliott is just awesome, and I just really got the feels of it. And also Martin Starr also played a really good character in that movie. But my number 3 is the also aforementioned Inside Out. What I'd like to mention, this experience that I kind of forgot to mention, is I actually saw this at the LA Film Festival a week early, and Pete Docter was there talking about like Pixar and stuff like that, so it was really fascinating to see him talk about that stuff, and I really just, it was really interesting to see how hard these people works, and you could tell Pete Docter was really excited about this film, and I'm glad he was, because his excitement about this film is very real. His like how proud of it he's very proud of it, because when I went to see it for a second time with my nieces, not my nieces, my cousins, Pete Docter was like introducing the movie, and you could tell he was really proud of it. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that.
All right, we're going to go to Mark. What is number 3 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
Mine is Avengers: Age of Ultron. I loved Avengers: Age of Ultron. Growing up as a kid who read comic books, never in a million years, like just 20 years ago when I was 12 years old, if you had said to me, as you know, on Saturday mornings as I watched X-Men the animated series, which is the most unbelievable animated series, I still love it to this day. If you had said one day Marvel, X-Men, all these, you know, superheroes that, you know, you see for a half an hour once a week on a Saturday morning are going to not only be portrayed by actors like, you know, Robert Downey Jr. and even the X-Men, even, you know, whatever else, like Patrick Stewart and so on and so forth. If you had told me at 12 years old, one day superheroes are going to be popular, one day comic books are going to be popular, and enough so that they're going to be making billion-dollar movies, I probably would have called you crazy. It was like an experience. I mean, Avengers: Age of Ultron was probably not a perfect movie, but I loved it anyway. I mean, yeah, there were some things, you know, that were not great about the movie, or at least could have had a little bit more work. But at the same time, the overall experience of the film and the fact that these movies are being made, and I think there's very few people that understand just how important and amazing it is that superhero movies are made. Again, just going back 20 years, which is not a long time, going back even 10 years to a certain extent, just to have these movies is just, it's unbelievable. So for me, specifically with the movie, other than the sort of the amazement, other than just, you know, being kind of aghast at everything, I really loved the movie. I really loved seeing Vision. I really loved the fact that now we're going into Civil War. Civil War happens to be my absolute favorite storyline in any comic book thread ever written. I love the Civil War. I love Iron Man versus Captain America. I love what they're sort of like. Both have these different sides of what they're standing for. I'll go with Captain America, but at the same time, I just think it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And every movie that has led up to this point, I can't see Civil War, for example, not being great. Another thing I wanted to mention too was I loved seeing Linda Cardinelli as Hawkeye's wife. She's unbelievable. She was great, really great actress. So it's number 3 for me because there's just 2 more that just, you know, for me personally, just were a little bit better. But Avengers: Age of Ultron was fantastic. I'm just so glad that, you know, I'm living in an era that all these nerdy things are cool. So, yeah.
All right, Rachel, what is number 3 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
My number 3 is the same as Michael's number 5, Love and Mercy. And this could be interesting to people because from my perspective, I did not go in knowing very much. I mean, I know who the Beach Boys were, but just the bare minimum. I'm not a big music person. I didn't know anything about Brian Wilson's life, so I didn't go in with any sort of preconceived ideas about their music or them as people or their history. So I just experienced it as a movie and a story, and it blew me away. This guy, Bill Pollard, who directed, I don't know where he's been, but he's amazing. Weaving the 2 stories, John Cusack in the early 90s and Paul Dano in the 70s, weaving the 2 stories together and letting the scenes just weave in and out in such this lyrical way, which just makes sense because it's a movie about music, and it's not exactly doesn't exactly play out the way you expect it to, but it just makes so much sense, and it's just so the pacing is perfect, and Paul Dano is my favorite performance of the year so far in any movie. He blew me away. The scenes where he's left the rest of the band's gone and toured in Japan, and he's left back with the musicians, and he's working out the new album, and the experience and the way the camera moves and the way Paul Dano interacts with the musicians, and it's internal, but it's also still all on display in the most beautiful way. It took my breath away, and I was so engrossed by the story and the acting and the directing that, it made me come home and want to learn more about Brian Wilson and listen to their music and everything, because you could just tell the movie was made with so much love. And Elizabeth Banks, hands down, her best performance. She's usually so over the top, like in Hunger Games and in Pitch Perfect. This was a much more grounded performance, really, really well done. She was such a strong woman caught up in this whole thing, and I loved how she fought for Brian, and John Cusack's not one of my favorite actors either. I've never really been on that bandwagon, but he just immersed himself in it, and I totally bought that Paul Dano and John Cusack were both playing the same person. Like, everything just fit so well together that I cannot, say how beautiful I thought that this movie was. And, in any other year, any other time would probably be number one. There's just a couple of other movies that had just I liked a little bit more, but my top three are tight, and this I can't recommend this movie enough. Love and Mercy.
My number three is a movie we already talked about, so I'm not going to talk about a whole lot, called Inside Out. And, I had 5 other movies in my Fast Five, and I saw Inside Out a second time last week, like I said, and it had to be in my Fast Five, plus a little bit of nudging, I think, from Rachel on Saturday on a discussion that we had. She kind of made me think, this is better than I thought it was, so I put it in my Fast Five at number 3. Inside Out, I cannot say enough about this movie. Just a great movie. It's probably going to win the Oscar for Best Animated Film, and Pixar is back. What else can I say? All right, we are going to go to Fast Five, number 2, a film of 2015 on our list. This time we're going to start with Mr. Mark. What is number 2 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
Well, it's going to be short because, Dan, you just mentioned it. It's Inside Out, Pixar's best. I've talked about it earlier, and again, love this film. I'm cheering for this film to win as many awards as it can, like many people, and it's a brilliant film.
Michael, what is number 2 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
My number 2 is I think you mentioned it, Dan. It is Ex Machina. I love brilliant sci-fi with great stories, and this is definitely one really just awesome sci-fi movie. I love what Alex Garland did. I just want him to direct more sci-fi movies. He's been a writer for years, like Sunshine and a lot of the other stuff he did. So yeah, I'm glad he did it. The acting was probably some of the best performances of the year by Domhnall Gleeson, Oscar Isaac, and Alicia Vikander. They were both great. The mythology of the sci-fi and just the world they kind of created with that was just really, really fascinating. The surprise amount of humor, suspense. It had everything. It was also one of the best shot movies I have seen in a while, and I loved it. It is coming out on Blu-ray in a couple weeks, and I'm definitely going to go pick it up because I really, really enjoyed it.
All right, Rachel, what is number 2 on your Fast Five films of 2015?
It is the same as Michael's. Ex Machina. I, like he said, love smart sci-fi movies. This is actually a deceptively simple movie. It basically stars 3 people, 4 kind of, and these 3 actors are just perfect. The way they play off of each other, the way that they all get into their characters and bring out their all differing points of view. It's such an intelligent, commentary. There's so much in this. I mean, a lot of this is a couple characters sitting around talking, but what they're talking about is just so mesmerizing and so current. All these ideas of what artificial intelligence is and what it could be, how Oscar Isaac's character created his artificial intelligence, and it's like this whole commentary on the whole like Edward Snowden thing that's going on right now, and how using the internet and social media and everything else, like we're putting little pieces of ourselves out there to be extracted by God knows who, and there's just such this creepy, intense byplay between all these characters and what their motivations are, and it slowly reveals itself, but it's just done in such a brilliant, thought-provoking way, and these performances are just Oscar Isaac. Every time he's on screen, I cannot look away. I'm already immensely excited about Star Wars, but the fact that he is in it makes it even more so for me. Alicia Vikander is going to be huge. John Hall Gleason's going to be huge. Like, this is smart, simple sci-fi storytelling at its absolute best. Like, I was blown away. I loved this movie. So it's my number 2.
All right, Rachel and Michael have already said this one. My number 2 Fast Five film of 2015, Love and Mercy. I don't know what else I could say about this film, but let me tell you something. This movie is based on a book by Brian Wilson himself. He wrote the words that they used to script to make this movie. So he basically wrote the fact that he wanted to tell this story about him in the past and him in the future. Or they cut some of the book out and they concentrated on these 2 parts. The present day, well, I think it wasn't the present day. What I mean is probably like the 80s. Early 80s, I think it was. Am I wrong, Rachel, there? The early 80s?
I think it was actually late 80s, early 90s is right about when he met her in real life, so I don't think that they were trying to stick to that.
Yeah, all right, so late 80s, early 90s. And then the creation, basically, of animal sounds, which, if you've seen the movie, there's a thing, they talk about animal sounds in the movie. I don't want to give it away in case anybody has not seen Love and Mercy. It's not a movie that's just all over the place like some of the other movies we've been talking about. But I cannot say enough. You have got to see this movie. If you're going to have Best Supporting Actors nominations for one movie, kind of like Foxcatcher kind of thing last year, this is the movie you could get it in. You could get multiple nominations for acting for Love and Mercy, for maybe Elizabeth Banks, who I am not a big fan of Elizabeth Banks whatsoever. She's been some real trash heap movies lately, but she's really good in this. Finally, she gives a good performance, and she's fantastic in it. Paul Giamatti, I mean, I don't care what movie, very rarely does Paul Giamatti pop up in a movie where he gives a crappy performance. He is fantastic as the psycho doctor. And obviously John Cusack and Paul Dano give 2 performances in the phrase that I like to use that comes to mind is yin and yang. These 2 yin and yang performances, one in the past, basically one in the future, and him thinking that he might be crazy when he's coming up with these ideas for this record, animal sounds and stuff like that. Of course, you're going to know what happens with that record later on, but he doesn't know what's going on. He only has his other guys in his band that he has to go off of. And these guys are like, what the heck is wrong with you? You're crazy. Of course, we all know now that he had voices in his head. But I don't want to give too many spoilers. I hope that's not too big of a spoiler. But obviously you could read about Brian Wilson if you really want to know about him. But I mean, wow. Genre, I think sometimes it gets overlooked is musical biopics. Not biopics, but musical biopics. If you look just the last decade, some of the best musical biopics are some of the best movies of the last 15 years. And you go back to Ray, and you go back to Walk the Line, and now you go to Love and Mercy. Wow, what a phenomenal! Please, Oscars, look at this movie and say these are great performances in a really, 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 really good movie. Okay, folks, it is that time. We're going to go back to Rachel, and we're going to go to our Fast Five number one. But first, Rachel, give us the order of your Fast Five, 5 through 2.
Okay, so going back, my number 5 was Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. My number 4 was Mad Max Fury Road. My number 3 was Love and Mercy. Number 2 was Ex Machina, and I actually gave away the lead earlier. My number 1 is Inside Out. Pixar is back, baby. This was an amazing movie. I've seen it twice. I will actually pay to see it in the theater again. I loved it that much. One thing I'll add to what I said earlier is it's incredibly sophisticated. Like there's such meaningful ideas to take away from this about memory and growing up and learning, and it's sad, but the movie itself is teaching you that being sad is okay and that it's a part of everything. It's a part of growing up. It's a part of living, and I think it's just such a thoughtful and meaningful message. And as Dan said, the voice actors were phenomenal, but I want to give a shout out to Richard Kind, who did Bing Bong, The Imaginary Friend. Like, that is just it's the touching, it's the heart of the movie, and this character is the one that kids will take away the most, I think, and it's just so beautifully done. But across the board, all the acting was amazing. So Inside Out is just an incredible movie, and I highly, highly recommend it.
All right, we're going to go to Michael. What is number 1 on your Fast 5 films of 2015, but run down your 5 through 2, please.
All right. If you could just give me a second, let me go to my notes to just get it. Number 5, Love and Mercy. Number 4, Mad Max Fury Road. Number 3, Inside Out. Number 2, Ex Machina. And number 1, Rachel's mentioned this before, at her number 5, my number 1 is Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. Now, I saw this at the Newport Beach Film Festival. I was so excited to see this that I paid, like, I think the ticket was $25 just to go see this movie, and I loved it. It is a cinephile's movie. That is basically what I could say about it. I can relate to the main character. I've been through a lot of this stuff he's been through, even not really the Cancer Girl stuff. Thomas Mann, one of the best performances by a young actor ever. Like, he was in Project X before this. He was also in Welcome to Me, a movie I wasn't crazy about, but he was definitely one of the best parts and he was just excellent in this movie as the lead. And also Earl, I forget the actor that plays Earl. He's really good. Olivia Cook, she's great as I forget her name, the main character's name, and
Rachel.
Yes, Rachel. Thank you. She was just really, really good. The transformation she went through was just amazing, and I loved it. Also, the supporting cast, John Barenthal, kind of reminded me of my teacher, and also Nick Offerman, Connie Britton, Molly Shannon. Just the supporting cast is just great in this movie, and I just thought it was hilarious and heartfelt, and the ending is one of the most beautiful and most heartbreaking endings ever made, and I absolutely love Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl. It is a cinephile's movie. It's a great comedy. It's a great drama. It is just a great movie. I haven't loved a movie this much since Nightcrawler, which was my favorite movie of 2014 and one of my favorite movies of all time. And I love Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl.
All right, Mark, what is number 1 on your Fast 5 films of 2015? But please, run down your 5 through 2, please.
So for me, number 5, Kingsman: Secret Service. Number 4, Mad Max: Fury Road. Number 3, Avengers: Age of Ultron. Number 2, Inside Out. And number 1 is a movie that Michael mentioned in his honorables list. It's It Follows. I absolutely love It Follows. Michael also said it earlier. He said he's not that much of a horror fan. I am not a horror fan. I usually don't like horror movies. I usually don't get horror movies um, unless they're in a very specific style, which you could call the psychological horror. I love The Shining. I think The Shining is one of the greatest movies ever made, one of the most brilliantly shot films ever made. Kubrick was a genius. We all know this. And I don't like slasher movies. I don't like torture porn. I don't like gore fests. I don't like any of that. But I love I love me a good psychological horror film, except for the fact that it follows, I contend, is not that much of a horror movie. It has horror elements. What it follows actually is a psychological thriller. And for those who may or may not know necessarily, uh, thrillers are my second favorite genre after science fiction. So science fiction for me is number one, always will be number one. Thrillers are number two. And when you can combine elements of the supernatural and fantasy, which some contend are in science fiction, I kind of don't, but you could, with a brilliant psychological thriller where within a whole movie, not only are you watching somebody being followed by this relentless demon, but you yourself feel as if you are being followed. And that is the worst feeling. It's just the feeling of being followed. And I thought it was such a terrifying movie for doing something so simple as just following following some girl. Now, of course, the story on how she gets the demon, why it's following her, the background of that, the fact that they kind of are growing up in Michigan, they're not in the upper class, they're kind of, lower middle class, explains a lot in the story. For example, and I don't want to kind of give it away, but if you think about it, you could actually live your whole life continuing to run away from this demon. But the fact that they might not have had the means to do that made it, like, for me, it just sort of made sense and everything kind of came together. So I love It Follows, and I think if you take it as a psychological thriller, first, a horror movie second, I think it's just completely brilliant. And the one last point I just want to make is it is also a love letter to John Carpenter's horror movies like Halloween and even The Thing, where it just completely keeps you guessing to the very end. So for me, that is so far my favorite film not all time rather, favorite film of 2015. I'm looking forward to a lot that's coming this fall, but as of right now, it definitely is.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go. My Fast Five films of 2015. Number 5, Ex Machina. Number 4, I'll See You in My Dreams. Number 3, Inside Out. Number 2, Love and Mercy. And it was Rachel's number 5 and Michael's number 1. My number 1 film of 2015 so far, and I wanted to do a tie or something. I don't know why, but I'm going to go with me and Earl and The Dying Girl. Wow, Michael and Rachel said so much about this movie, but it just hit home with me. It just was such a sad movie at the end, but I love the fact that these kids grow up loving movies and they made their own home movies and they did it together. Buddy, they grew up together and they just did it. They didn't have the greatest upbringings, they were from Pittsburgh and they didn't have the best family and the best house and the best this and the best that, but one thing they found, a connection, these two kids, I think, is the one. Earl was R.C. Ryder and the other kid was it Greg, and then he was played by Thomas Mann. They found film. The film was a universal thing that they both loved, and they just enjoyed doing it. They made their own little knockoff movies of all these different classic movies out there. And of course, how do you find romance by having your mom tell you to go be friends with this sick girl? I don't think I saw that coming. I don't think anybody saw that coming in the Earl and the Dying Girl. And I mean, I just felt so. I wanted them to be together so much, and then the whole idea of what we know was the inevitable. It's in the title of the movie, you know, the Dying Girl, and how they could find romance and find love in a short span that they did have together in basically a span of a school year, a high school year. And once again, they capture high school life so perfectly. I worked at a high school for 20 years. I coached sports. I was around a lot of different cliques, being involved with coaching sports and working at a high school. This captured high school life absolutely perfect, in my opinion. And it was a little bit of a period piece. I think it might have took place like in the 80s or something. Did it take place, Rachel? Did it take place today, or did it take place like in the 80s?
I don't know if it declared itself in any way. I don't remember it doing so, but I know it's based on a book, which I haven't read, so it's possible that it could be dated.
There are computers. I did see a person playing the PSP and like Criterion. I don't know how long Criterion has been, but it looked like the newer cases, like the new Criterion movie cases. So I think it is today because of like the laptops and in the movie and stuff like that.
All right, gotcha. So, all right, so it takes place today, but it looks like it kind of takes place a while ago. So once again, another throwback type of genre. But Olivia Cooke, I just cannot say enough about a young actress who's really, if you haven't watched the Bates Hotel TV show based on
Psycho,
Hitchcock's classic, one of my favorite movies of all time, Psycho. Please, it's a really good show with Freddie Highmore and God,
Vera Farmiga.
Vera Farmiga, great show. She has been in a couple horror movies that I didn't like that much, but I really like her as a young actress, and she was fantastic once again in this little indie. And it was like Rachel said, a festival film festival darling. I think it won Sundance. Did it get high ratings at South by Southwest, or was it involved in South by Southwest, Rachel? Do you know?
I don't remember hearing one way or the other. The first time I heard about it was at Sundance, so I don't know if it played at South by. If not, I don't recall hearing.
I think it was at Toronto last year. That's where I remember. I think Alicia's saying something about it at Toronto. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Whatever. Who cares? I cannot. I just absolutely love this movie, and I everybody, please, if you got a screening, if you got it playing in one theater, a half hour, 45 minutes, an hour away from your house, or wherever you live, go see Me and Earl and the Dying Girl. It would be a crime if people aren't out there seeing this movie. It is phenomenal. And you don't have to make $1 billion to make a great movie. We talked about Ex Machina, It Follows, Love and Mercy, Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, I'll See You in My Dreams. These are small indie movies that don't cost a lot of money, but they need people like you. If you go and watch the show, go watch these movies. They're phenomenal movies. Okay, now, that is the end of the show. I appreciate and thank every one of our panelists. Mark, Michael, Rachel, this has been fantastic for me, talking with you guys about what we all love. We all love is movies. And I see the passion. Every word that each and every one of you say is fantastic for me. Where can you be found, Mark, so other people can see your love of movies?
Of course, yeah. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Snapchat, just Mark Tordai. My name is MarkTordai.
Michael, where can the folks out there that may be watching or watching this down the road, hopefully, can find you?
You can find me on Facebook, at Michael Camille, and you could find me on Twitter at Camille_Michael, and on my YouTube channel where I do movie reviews weekly, Michael Camille. So you could find me there.
Rachel, where can the good folks out there in the world find you?
You guys can find me on Facebook and Twitter, Rachel J. Cushing, and then I have my own movie reviewing website, getreelwithrachel.com. That's real with 2 E's. Please take a look, comment on the reviews. I will reply back. I love just talking about movies like we're doing here. So, yeah, check it out. Let me know what you think. Thanks.
And I, for one, have I follow Get Real with Rachel. I try to read all her reviews. It is a fantastic. If you want to talk about a fantastic writer, a fantastic film reviewer, a fantastic film critic, you're looking at one right there. That young lady right there, Rachel J. Cushing, is phenomenal. She deserves a shot in Hollywood. Somebody, please give this woman a shot. I can be found, like Mark, everywhere. Dan Skip Allen, Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Also, I'm also the host of the Profiles After Show, as you know. I'm also on another show called The Best Damn Movie Show with my co-host Vinny LaSpada and on Facebook. And that is our show. Hopefully we will catch you next weekend. If you love the Coen Brothers, if you want to watch our show or you want to be on the show, all you have to do is hit me up, message me on Facebook. Because the Coen Brothers is going to be a fantastic show, and I'm guessing a few of the people on here are going to want to talk about the Coen Brothers next week. So, talk to you later. Why we got Liam popping up right now, I have no idea. That is it for us. Thank you. Good night.
Bye.